Hello, everyone. We see people are logging on. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and give everybody about 2 minutes to join us as well. All right, while we get everybody else joining, we are going to go ahead and start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Immersion Day on Amazon Lex. We're so glad to have you and that you've decided to join us virtually. We're excited to share some really great information that we've got lined up for you today. So before we get into the presentation details, a few general features and housekeeping of the webinar that I want to point out to you all are the Q&A feature. So what we want to use this for is very technically specific questions on the presentation. So we've set aside some specific times to go through that question bank, and then we will address them all as we can. We've got some team in the backup that will also be monitoring them. So if we have repeat questions and everything like that, we'll be sure to answer those first priority ones immediately when we get to the Q&A. So the second thing is that I will use the chat to share some information with you, such as the survey towards the end of the presentation, as well as my email address if there's any technical difficulties that you guys need help with. I'll also be monitoring in the background while the presentation is going on. So I will send that after we get started. You'll receive your lab login credentials for the lab participation that's happening later today around 12 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time in preparation for the lab session. You'll also receive your digital Grubhub gift card around that time as well. So let's go ahead and we will get started with the agenda. So first, we're just going to go on to a brief introduction into IDEXL, and then we will be starting off with a presentation from Chris Strinack on applying Amazon Voice and Language Services. Then our second presenter, Viswanath, will be presenting on Amazon Lex and business intelligence chatbots. After that, we'll go through a lab on how to build your own chatbot, as well as best practices and some industry use cases and the demo. So after that, let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of our background so you get to know us at IDEXL a little bit better. So IDEXL is a professional services and IT solutions provider headquartered in Herndon, Virginia, with about 20 years experience implementing complex technologies. We're an AWS exclusive partner specializing in artificial intelligence, machine learning, data services, and cloud services for both the commercial and public sector customers. We have over 100 AWS certified cloud practitioners on our team and hold various competencies within the AWS ecosystem that you can see on the next slide here. So IDEXL is really focused on supporting the AWS cloud. We're an advanced AWS partner and reseller. We've achieved AWS competencies in migration, DevOps, financial services, and we actually have 2 more by the end of this year. We are also recognized as a public sector partner with authorization to resell and service the AWS GovCloud. We're also a preferred partner for the well-architected framework. And we are also an Immersion Day partner, as you can see, since we're hosting an Immersion Day as well. On the next slide, you can see our 4 core service areas with extensive expertise in migration, machine learning, and cloud services, cloud native services, and data modernization. Now, let's get to know our speakers a little bit. What you guys have all been waiting for. Chris Greenock is the Global Machine Learning Technical Lead, as well as a co-founder of the APN Machine Learning Group in 2007. He'll be leading the first presentation section of our event, followed by Viswanath Ravindran, Principal Data Scientist for IDEXL. Viswanath leads IDEXL's AI and automation practice, so he'll also be leading the second presentation, as well as working with you all later in the lab later on this afternoon. So before we get started with Chris's portion of the presentation, we've actually set up a few polls. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this one, and you guys can go ahead and participate in that. So let me go ahead and turn off my video. So this one that we've got is on the current cloud status. So we'll let this go for about a minute so all of the participants can give your answers. And then we'll share the results with you. We've got about 30 seconds left for polling. All right, so I'm going to end the polling here in about 15 to 30 more seconds. Got a couple more people voting. All right. Thank you all so much for your participation. So, as you can see, about 50% of you all already in the cloud. About 17% are looking to move to the cloud now in the immediate future, and 33% are looking to move in the next 3 to 6 months. All right. Great, so thank you all so much for participating in that. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Chris for the first part of our presentation.
All right, well, I am very happy to join you this morning, and I'd like to kick off with just a short demo. And what I mean by demo is something pretty simple here. I'm going to do something that should be familiar to most people. Alexa, call my brother.
Sure. Please tell me your brother's name exactly as it appears in your address book.
Never mind. Alexa, thank you. Alexa, should I wear a mask?
To limit the spread of COVID-19, the CDC advises everyone to wear a cloth face cover when in public. Exceptions to this advisory include young children.
Now, this experience should be familiar to most people. Obviously, we know about Alexa. What you may not know, excuse me, is that Alexa and Polly, which is the service that actually speaks back to us, is available in its entire capability actually through the services at AWS. Right now, excuse me, I'm going to share my screen and begin sharing with you how you can build this into your applications. And let's see if I can get this shared now. All right, so Megan, if you don't mind confirming that the rest of the world can see this. So, excuse me for clearing my throat here. I'm just getting started in the morning in San Francisco. I'm going to walk through the AWS stack and how to get started with not only Amazon Lex and Polly, which is the speaking part of Lex, but also Kendra, which really is transforming the way dialogues work with enterprise data. So first up, if I can get my screen to advance. Not sure why that's not advancing here. Our mission at AWS is to put machine learning in the hands of every developer. And the way we've approached this is by building the broadest and most complete set of machine learning capabilities, which we generally call the AWS stack. Now, from the bottom up, we have the frameworks and infrastructure that I believe most people think of when they think of the cloud. The hardware, the compute services, and of course, this is all built on a framework of storage and database capabilities. But when you're approaching machine learning specifically, you're typically going to need the frameworks that are associated with that, principally PyTorch, TensorFlow, scikit-learn, MXNet. These are the frameworks upon which most of the breakthroughs in machine learning are being built today. In addition to just sort of these raw materials, which are really sort of the expert level, once you've really been doing machine learning for a while, you begin to add enhancements doing that. In addition to that, we also have a number of capabilities that keep the cost of doing machine learning as low as possible. In the second tier of this stack, we have machine learning services, which is principally our SageMaker Studio suite. Using SageMaker, you can do everything that's essential to machine learning, including labeling your data, having human in the loop to help develop those labels, taking advantage of our built-in algorithms that give extraordinary extensibility to training and sort of the heavy lifting that's involved with building models. One of the essential ideas around machine learning is that with machine learning, data writes your code. So that's a really new concept for most people. The whole idea that you're not sort of taking a functional spec, writing an algorithm or a set of routines, or constructing a solution by cutting and pasting from some framework. When it comes to machine learning, it begins with data. Data writes your function. So it's absolutely essential that you have well-groomed, maintained data. So the labeling aspect of SageMaker is absolutely essential. So what actually writes the code? Well, it's the algorithms, right? And that could come from the frameworks. But using SageMaker built-in algorithms, you get built-in extensibility. What that means is you can use one machine, maybe with one GPU, or you can extend that to multiple GPUs or multiple machines with multiple GPUs. And if you're using our built-in algorithms, that's all managed for you. Or you won't have to write any code at all. Using SageMaker Autopilot, you can simply tell SageMaker, where's my data? What do I want to do with it? Push a button, and we will use our AutoML capabilities to choose an algorithm for you, create a model, and even host that model for you. So that's an essential aspect of building machine learning services is SageMaker. On the top level, and that's where we really are today, we have our complete services. And as you might imagine, it falls into the categories where we have the most breakthroughs right now in machine learning, principally the ability to see, hear, and understand, right? So we call that our AI services. And as you can see here, it's divided into vision, speech, text, search, etc. So you may not, and certainly if you're beginning this journey, I would recommend you exhaust first the possibility of not only using AWS's AI services, but also the services that are offered in the marketplace. So what we're going to focus on today is chatbots. What I'll say about chatbots very briefly is, just as I gave in my quick demo with Alexa at the beginning, is these are essential aspects of every app today. Customers and users, even in enterprise, don't expect to have to type into a web page, or even, God forbid, thumb into their phone the questions that they have. Voice is an essential aspect of every modern app, whether you're in oil and gas, media and entertainment, government, public service, etc. Next up on that is, what is resulting from, what results are you getting from chatting with your app? Well, we have a new service called Amazon Kendra. And what Kendra does is it digests a number of documents, PDFs, it accesses databases that you have in-house, and it gives a lot more flexibility to the to your answers to those questions. So let's start with Lex. So first of all, Lex is the powerful solution that is the driving force behind Alexa, and we've more than 3 years ago, we opened up that entire API to make it possible for you to build voice to speech and speech to voice, or speech to text and text to speech apps on your own, accessing the data in your app however you think that data should be accessed. Excuse me. Along with Lex, we're providing a complete API and GUI-driven templates to create dialogue management, to deploy at scale internationally using other services such as Amazon Translate and Transcribe. You can take those speech to text questions, translate them into any language, have that search in another language, say if you're coming from French, German, Japanese, etc., but you know your data sources are only in English, you can do that translation and then come back in the language of your choice, including Chinese. You can associate business logic with that, and of course, at AWS, security and privacy and proper data governance is always our top priority. Some of those features include being able to build once and deploy on many platforms. This is designed for builders, it's enterprise ready, and as you use your app, we have a monitoring service built into Lex, which I'll get into in a little bit more detail in a moment. That learns. It learns as you're developing the app. So speech recognition is one thing. It's important to understand what's being said to your app, but understanding what's being said is sort of a different problem. When it comes to using speech to text, of course, there's mobile, as I just demonstrated. Other messaging platforms such as Slack and Instant Messenger and other messaging apps need to interface with your applications. Of course, all the SDKs that are involved in web apps are part of the Lex API, and increasingly putting voice out in IoT devices. And that can be anything from using IoT in your car, in the workplace, in your home, is enabled with Lex. And our IoT platform, which includes app distribution through IoT, AWS Greengrass, is an important part of using speech to text and text to speech. Now, here's a quick view, and I'm going to switch over to my browser in a moment to show you exactly how Lex apps are built. But here's a quick view of the interface, and you can see when you're just starting out in the middle, in the beginning of your app development, it's relatively easy to just use the graphic user interface to begin to build your app. If you go to Lex, and you begin to build your chatbot, this is what you'll see first. When you're creating your app, you're going to, of course, in the beginning, version very, very quickly. So we support versioning, and we also support aliases, so that when you're developing your app, you can go into the software development lifecycle with development, staging, and production aliases. Now, the continuous monitoring aspect is critical when it comes to developing apps, because voice to text apps, because you kind of really don't know what people are going to say until you get your app into production. And it's best not to assume. In fact, the best practice is really to begin with a few of what we call utterances. In other words, what you're going to say to your app in the beginning, and let your users, let your customers actually tell you how they're going to use the app. And we do that through the Lex Monitor. Now, that can be automated. And it turns out that if you're doing contact center chatbots, informational chatbots, application chatbots, productivity, or IoT, this is the best way to get the most effective app into production quickly. So some of the benefits of using Lex, as opposed to, say, building something from scratch, is it's very easy to use. When you begin to use the graphical user interface, you just basically start with, what are my intents? What do I intend to do with this app? You build a few utterances around it, start a beta test, begin to monitor what people are actually saying, and before you know it, you have something you can put into production. It's very high quality. The reason we can make a claim like that without really needing to substantiate it is just the widespread use of Alexa and the, well, really more than a decade of research and machine learning use at Amazon that has led to this very popular application of Lex. It's seamlessly deployed and scaled. And when we say scale, we are talking about scaling globally. With AWS's regional and availability zone and CloudFront support, you can ensure that you have millisecond response times from anywhere on the globe when you're building your app. So it's also remarkably cost effective, and that's going to be one of your biggest considerations. What's my total cost of ownership for deploying a voice app? So how do we build one? All right, let's go over a few basic concepts first. I like to start actually by saying how you don't build a chatbot. One of the worst ways to build a chatbot is to sit down and think about everything that a customer might say to your app first. That's what I would call an anti-pattern for a chatbot. The best way to think about how you're going to build a chatbot is to think about the functions. How are you going to fulfill requests, in other words, that are made to this chatbot? So when I say functions, well, you know, it will boil down to functions. You're actually going to be, if you're familiar with the AWS platform, you're typically going to be calling a Lambda. That Lambda is a function that is going to fulfill whatever your customer wants. The language that we use to describe this process is intents. In other words, what does your customer intend to do? Utterances, what's actually spoken. Slots, what's the information needed to completely fulfill that intent. And then fulfillment, which is the actual execution of your function itself. So intents, utterances, slots, and fulfillment. For example, if your app is designed to book a hotel, what is the ultimate aim of this hotel? Well, actually, the ultimate aim is getting a confirmation for having booked a hotel, right? So that's that function. So you will be thinking about the end. You're going to have the end in mind when you begin to design this app. Now, with that said, working backwards, and we're kind of going counterclockwise here, you will need to understand, do you have enough information to book this hotel? right? So those are the slots that I was talking about. So once again, kind of working back again, you're going to need to know, well, what city do you want to book in? What's your check-in date? What's your check-out date? And now you can begin to take the speech that might lead to that fulfillment of that intent and begin to build utterances and what utterances might actually be made. Now, what that is going to look like graphically is somebody comes to your app, they say, I want to book a hotel. Your response should be, well, we don't have enough information. What are the slots? What are the empty slots to fulfill that intent? And your response will be in a friendly manner in the language of your choice. Sure, what city will you be traveling to? Well, New York City. What date do you want to check in? And etc. So this creates the dialogue that goes back and forth. Now, you're going to be maintaining state as you're beginning to do this. And when I started my demo today, you might recall the first thing I asked was, hey, Alexa, can you call my brother? Well, Alexa asked, because I hadn't made that request before, can you please tell me the exact name of your brother in your address book? Well, that's easy to do, right? So what's Alexa doing there? Alexa seeing that there's an empty slot. Alexa didn't know at that moment what my brother's name was. So it began that dialogue. And as you're building your apps, there are ways for Lex to maintain state throughout the conversation and you want to have as natural experience as possible. And you might recall I said, never mind. And Alexa responded, okay, I'm canceling that response. That's a very natural thing to do. If I had asked an assistant, hey, could you please call my brother? She said, yeah, which one? Because she knows I have more than 2 brothers, or he. And so those are the slots that are being filled, right? Those are session attributes. They need to be confirmed. And it's your job as the chatbot designer to make that flow as natural as possible. And that's exactly what you can do with these session attributes. You can begin to create second intents. You can begin to really fulfill a more natural experience so that let's say you're doing some kind of drilling down on some kind of business intelligence and you say, hey, I need the sales results from last quarter. Well, which region? I want to drill down on the West Coast. I want to drill down on San Francisco. So it makes sense over time that you're going to begin to build these session attributes in what we call a simple declarative model in the beginning, then becomes multi-turn conversations. So these are all built into Lex. I'm going to skip by some of this. Oh, I guess I shouldn't skip by error handling. Sometimes we don't always understand what's being said. And Alexa's got a lot of history behind it, so it really does a pretty good job at understanding garbled text, or maybe when you swallow a word. However, sometimes you don't have a great connection. The app that you're using might be in a heavily trafficked. I'm in a city here right now, and there's a bus outside. Sometimes a garbage truck goes by and I have to excuse myself. So all of these are handled automatically in Lex. You can put in error responses that ask, could you please repeat that? Now, this is all text and language that you design. You can also use rich message formatting. Messages can be designed for multiple platforms. You can respond with text, you can respond with images, and you can respond with text links. As you'll see in a moment with Kendra, that you're actually going into perhaps the actual FAQ or your Salesforce or whatever apps that you have. If you're building, say, an HR support internally for your company, you can actually go into your HR systems and pull out specific PDFs. Say if an employee is looking for a particular form that they want to fill out, maybe that's an expense report or vacation request, etc. So these intents and slots are then passed to Lambda, as I mentioned, and then depending on which device you're using, they're returned to the client in the form that makes the most sense. So what does the application development life cycle look like? Well, as you go into your GUI, which is how most people start building chatbots, you begin with, of course, you have to design, you have to think about this before you go to the GUI, what functionality you're providing. Then you go in, you provide a few sample utterances, you provide a few sample responses, and you save them. Then you build, and when you build, you can automatically test in the GUI that we provide. When it's time to publish, when you're ready to go to, say, your beta or your alpha version, you go ahead and publish, and then you make that available on the cloud for anyone. Now, that's sort of step one, beta, alpha. Over time, you're going to move that to code. Now, obviously, we make it possible for you to code your intents, to code your utterances. And when you get into your automatic monitoring of what are people actually saying, you're going to want to save those dialogues as well. And it's becoming, it's very popular now to use the natural language processing features that we have built into SageMaker to automatically retrain your chatbots. In other words, take the real world utterances that are being used in your chatbot, use SageMaker's advanced natural language processing features, and automate that over time. So you don't have to go in and hard code this stuff, or you can at least use machine learning to assist. Now, we're really in the process now of rethinking enterprise search. And what we mean by that is we have a lot of information that we want to provide both to our customers in terms of, say, contact center support, but also internally, as in the use case that I mentioned for enterprise search. And that's why we've introduced Amazon Kendra. What Amazon Kendra does is it really begins with natural language. It takes the language that's being produced using Lex as a starting point and uses a lot of those features automatically. The features that I said you can access through SageMaker, you don't even have to code really. Using Amazon Kendra, that's all built in for you using natural language understanding and machine learning core principles that we've developed over time, both in Amazon Retail and in AWS. It combines that with your customer-specific domain expertise. It continuously improves over time using some of those mechanisms that I just described. We provide a number of native connectors, so you can connect to things like Salesforce, whatever your in-house databases are. And the API for this is very simple. Just like with Lex, you begin with Kendra on the console, and you begin to build these apps. In summary, it makes it easy to find what you're looking for, and it's easy to set up. Let's dig into this just a little bit more deeply. So what's a natural language query? Well, where is the IT support desk in Kumo? Kumo is one of the buildings for Amazon, for example. So that's a natural language query, but it's very specific to Amazon, right? I mean, this is looking internally at the way our campus is set up in Seattle. So you don't have to explain that to Kendra. Once you load in the data, once Kendra has a chance to index it, it can immediately go into what we call natural understanding, and it can begin to match your language against the specific interest that you're expressing in your utterance. You can put in facts, FAQs, frequently asked questions. It can rank documents so that you're going to the data that you need most. Importantly, it's optimized for a couple of important vertical domains. Information technologies, financial services, including insurance, pharma, industrial, energy, legal and media. So we've already used a number of the things that we've learned, both with our AWS ProServe group and our experience in the field, and we've integrated that natural language understanding and taking the text that comes from Lex and we automatically do this search for you. Not only that, but as you implement Kendra, you're going to improve automatically over time using the features that I just described. Now, I mentioned that there's a lot of noise outside. Looks like hopefully that wasn't too distracting, but there's stuff going on outside my window. So what are we connecting to? Well, what I call the spiritual home of AWS, S3. All of the file systems that are involved on AWS, the databases, that could be key value pairs like DynamoDB, or DynamoDB rather, or Domino Data Labs, one of our ML partners, SharePoint.
Hello, everyone. We see people are logging on. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and give everybody about 2 minutes to join us as well. All right, while we get everybody else joining, we are going to go ahead and start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Immersion Day on Amazon Lex. We're so glad to have you and that you've decided to join us virtually. We're excited to share some really great information that we've got lined up for you today. So before we get into the presentation details, a few general features and housekeeping of the webinar that I want to point out to you all are the Q&A feature. So what we want to use this for is very technically specific questions on the presentation. So we've set aside some specific times to go through that question bank, and then we will address them all as we can. We've got some team in the backup that will also be monitoring them. So if we have repeat questions and everything like that, we'll be sure to answer those first priority ones immediately when we get to the Q&A. So the second thing is that I will use the chat to share some information with you, such as the survey towards the end of the presentation, as well as my email address if there's any technical difficulties that you guys need help with. I'll also be monitoring in the background while the presentation is going on. So I will send that after we get started. You'll receive your lab login credentials for the lab participation that's happening later today around 12 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time in preparation for the lab session. You'll also receive your digital Grubhub gift card around that time as well. So let's go ahead and we will get started with the agenda. So first, we're just going to go on to a brief introduction into IDEXL, and then we will be starting off with a presentation from Chris Strinak, on applying Amazon voice and language services. Then our second presenter, Viswanath, will be presenting on Amazon Lex and business intelligence chatbots. After that, we'll go through a lab on how to build your own chatbot, as well as best practices and some industry use cases and the demo. So after that, let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of our background so you get to know us at Idexel a little bit better. So Idexel is a professional services and IT solutions provider headquartered in Herndon, Virginia, with about 20 years experience implementing complex technologies. We're an AWS exclusive partner specializing in artificial intelligence, machine learning, data services, and cloud services for both the commercial and public sector customers. We have over 100 AWS certified cloud practitioners on our team and hold various competencies within the AWS ecosystem that you can see on the next slide here. So Idexel is really focused on supporting the AWS cloud. We're an advanced AWS partner and reseller. We've achieved AWS competencies in migration, DevOps, financial services, and we actually have 2 more by the end of this year. We are also recognized as a public sector partner with authorization to resell and service the AWS GovCloud. We're also a preferred partner for the well-architected framework, and we are also an Immersion Day partner, as you can see, since we're hosting an Immersion Day as well. On the next slide, you can see our 4 core service areas with extensive expertise in migration, machine learning, and cloud services, cloud native services, and data modernization. Now, let's get to know our speakers a little bit. What you guys have all been waiting for. Chris Greenack is the Global Machine Learning Technical Lead, as well as a co-founder of the APN Machine Learning Group in 2007. He'll be leading the first presentation section of our event, followed by Viswanath Ravindran, Principal Data Scientist for Idexel. Viswanath leads Idexel's AI and automation practice, so he'll also be leading the second presentation, as well as working with you all later in the lab later on this afternoon. So before we get started with Chris's portion of the presentation, we've actually set up a few polls. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this one, and you guys can go ahead and participate in that. So let me go ahead and turn off my video. So this one that we've got is on the current cloud status. So we'll let this go for about a minute so all of the participants can give your answers. And then we'll share the results with you. We've got about 30 seconds left for polling. All right, so I'm going to end the polling here in about 15 to 30 more seconds. Got a couple more people voting. All right. Thank you all so much for your participation. So, as you can see, about 50% of you all already in the cloud. About 17% are looking to move to the cloud now in the immediate future, and 33% are looking to move in the next 3 to 6 months. All right. Great, so thank you all so much for participating in that. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Chris for the first part of our presentation.
So here's our help intent. I'm not going to go through all this code. I will give the URL so you can download all of this. But at the end of the day, what happens when you call this intent is it calls Lambda to fulfill that intent by running this code. This code includes the handler, the error handler, and we can actually test that by just filling in some key value pairs for this and running the test. So if we go ahead and looks like I haven't set that up for this yet, so I'm not going to run that right now. But typically, that's how you go ahead and debug your Lambda. So I'm going to pop back over here to Lex, and now we kind of have we have our utterances, we have our we have our fulfillments. Now I want to test this bot, right? So what's built in, and you might recall I gave that little schematic about what the full life cycle is. So when you build your chatbot, you just push this button, build, and that will create a test framework for you, right? So if you interact with this bot, you might remember one of the things we could say is hello. So we can go ahead and do that, and we get our automated response. Let's see, and if I say, you know, well, I can see it right on the left there. Do I have an appointment, or better yet, let's just do this the way it happens in the real world. Do I have an appointment? And we go ahead and hit that, and we don't have one set up yet. Okay, so you could see that just with this simple dialogue going back and forth, we can get all the way to filling out the form and setting up our actual appointment. Now, what I'd like to do now is actually kind of take this to another level. I'll put this URL here. And once again, this is relatively easy to find. If you just search for creating smarter FAQ bots with Kendra, you can see what this architecture looks like. Now, this particular chatbot sets up a scenario where you have actually taken your company's FAQ. You've set up a couple of PDFs that answer a lot of the questions that might be involved in that FAQ. Or what you're doing here is, number one, you kind of don't know what all the utterances are that people might be looking for in the beginning, but you know you have a big data set, right? You know you have a lot of stuff that people come to the contact center for, or the help desk, or HR, or whatever it is. And what Kendra is going to do is actually take all of that data, digest it, and then you can even use a third-party service like Slack to interact with that and access all of that data. So to demo that, what I'm going to do, and once again, all that I've done here is replicate a recent post on creating smarter FAQ bots. And of course, that could be extended to Salesforce, whatever. So I'm going to come back over here to our services, and let's take a quick look at Kendra. So one of the things that we do here, and I'm happy to help IDEXL at any time or assist anyone who's interested here, is walk through the process of building this. Here we've built an IT help desk. And the first step in this process, as you might imagine, is to add your data sources. Now, I'm not going to do this now because it can take up to a half an hour. But what I will do is just show you the ones that I already have. So if we dig into our ID help desk here, we can see that we've built this. We've scanned a number of documents. Well, we did this fairly recently. We have loaded it up with FAQs, right? And here's our FAQ for the help desk. And then facets are aspects of how you approach this data, how the data was actually indexed. So let's see what this looks like. So if I come over to this and I ask a couple of questions, I can dig into the FAQ and answer questions that might not be immediately obvious. So just referring back to this, blog post, which I encourage you to do, like simple things, you know, I mentioned this kind of in the beginning. Where is the IT help desk? Can I come in at noon? You know, you can ask, you know, kind of this random stuff. In fact, why don't I just do that? Oops, didn't match any results in my query. Oops. Hold on a second. Where is the help desk? Maybe I should have checked this morning. Where's the help desk? There we go. Now, forgive that misfire in the beginning there, but basically what that did is it downloaded, in this instance, the PDF that was associated with that particular query. And, you know, it didn't bring it up immediately in Firefox because that's just not the way Firefox works, or at least that's not the way that I have it set up. But here is the PDF that's relevant to this document. So it's doing a fuzzy natural language search. It doesn't have to have the exact response, say that you've entered the specific language for your utterance and you've entered, you know, the specific language for its response. So it really adds this strong layer of dimensionality to the experience for your app user. Now, you may find over time that you want to wait. In other words, give more priority to certain responses, and all of that flexibility is built into Kendra. So over time, you may find that your indexes you know, are growing in a certain way that needs to be groomed. So once again, these are functionalities that we've built into Kendra, and this is remarkably popular. I have to say, as far as our language services at AWS, you know, we have Textract, which takes PDFs and scan documents like this and automatically determines what kind of text it is. Is it a table? Is it continuous text flowing from one column to another? Taking that, extracting it using computer vision first, and then OCR later, or what we call OCR plus. And giving that, putting that data into your data sources. I would say that and Kendra are where we're seeing, you know, most of our growth right now in these data services. So that is a very brief introduction to the language and data services at AWS. I want to thank everybody for your time today. We do have a number of online courses, and I pointed you to some of the blog references. Definitely the two that I would recommend starting with first, if you want to just kind of go off on your own or share this with others. And then, of course, if you have any questions, I have a pretty extensive Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub repo, and YouTube channel that covers a lot of these. I do a lot of tutorials and Q&A and stuff. Also, I run the New York City Deep Learning Meetup, which is the first Thursday of every month, where we go into a lot of details on this stuff. And I love what I do, and I'm really eager always to share. So I want to thank IDXL for inviting me today to present some of these tools, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you so much, Chris. We really, really appreciate it. So next up, we're going to move on to another poll. So if you guys go ahead and see now, this is about the current AWS services in use. So feel free to check them all off if they apply, as well as adding in any of the other options. So we'll give that about a minute and a half, let everybody vote, and then we will share the results again, and then move forward with the next round of presentation. All right, thank you for all of our attendees who have voted. I'm going to end the poll here in about 15 seconds. So if you have any more results that you want to share with us, take care of those now. All right. So as you can see, we've got about 33% of you using Amazon Textract. No one currently marked Amazon Lex. Recognition as well is about 17%, and others. So we are looking forward if you guys would like to message us directly in the chat feature and let us know some of the other AWS services that you're using currently. All right, thank you so much. Now, next up, we are going to move to the we're going to go ahead and move forward with the second part of our presentation. So I will hand this off to Ms. Fox.
Hey guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry about that. Okay, I think we will get started with the next presentation that we have for you. Just going to stop my video and I'm going to get. Okay. Okay, so we'll start off with, we want to walk you through what we have very specific here as a BI chatbot. But before we get there, we want to start it off with understanding the evolution of chatbots from the very beginning, right? So chatbot as a concept has been around for quite some time now. It's not something that came up now, but it has been for quite some time now, but it is a real buzzword in the AI or the machine learning space only recently. I think all of us would have probably started hearing about chatbots probably in the last 10, 12 years. So to begin with, why did chatbot came into existence? The very reason that it came into existence is because people wanted to develop an alternative means through which they can interact with computers. That's the birth of the first chatbot in 1966 called as Eliza. Eliza was also called as a chatbot. And Eliza was developed by MIT labs even before the launch of personal computers. That's like really interesting. So even before the launch of personal computers, Eliza was developed, and it was primarily built to examine keywords as input, and it would then trigger an output based on rules. So I think it can be a very basic system. I can't even imagine how basic it would be, but yeah, that's amazing what people have conceptualized in 1966. Right. So the next chatbot was Parry, which was developed by a psychiatrist at Stanford, which is specifically meant to simulate a person with paranoid schizophrenia. Yeah, that's that's interesting as well. But there was not a lot of development after that. And then in 1995 is when Alice came into picture, which is almost like 2 decades later, which was developed with the intention to engage in conversations with human by applying some heuristic patterns or generally rules to engage in conversation. So that was really interesting. I believe that was probably the beginning of the actual chatbots. And then came IBM Watson, which pretty much all of us are very familiar with, where IBM developed Watson in 2006, and then it was basically built with a question answering computer, which is capable of handling natural language questions. And there was this very popular show that they wanted to develop this chatbot for, and they featured in the show called as Jeopardy. And in fact, they made IBM Watson so smart that it won over humans in the Jeopardy competition, in the Jeopardy show. And then chatbot became very personal when Apple announced Siri, and as in 2010, along with an iPhone, and Google also introduced something called as Google Now, which was available for the Android phones in the year 2012. And so these were ideally introduced as intelligent personal assistants for handling tasks on your phone. So I believe all of us would have interacted with our Apple Siri or Google Now today. We typically can do things that we want to do in the phone, something like, hey Siri, set up an alarm for me at 6 a.m. in the morning, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of things that Apple Siri and Google Now can do. And then came Amazon Alexa, which kind of blew the waters because Amazon Alexa brought in a huge variety of capabilities that it can, along with it, which probably Apple Siri and Google Now could not do, right? And most importantly, Alexa was introduced via a separate channel, which was there were several smart speakers that were sold, and Amazon Alexa came built in within it, and it was primarily targeted to build as a system which can control home automation devices. So that's how Alexa is evolving every single day. If you're subscribed for emails for Alexa, you do get emails time and again indicating what are the new set of skills that it can handle. So and then in 2016 was probably an important chatbot that was released by Facebook, which was called as Messenger Bots. Facebook's Messenger was the third most popular mobile messaging application that was at that particular time, and they introduced the Messenger bot for businesses. This was specifically focused for business customers, where they wanted to replace the existing marketing tool, which was back in 2016 the email marketing tool. I believe it's still email marketing is predominantly applied in a lot of businesses. So that's the brief history and evolution of how chatbots have come a long way. I believe you all agree to that. So moving to the next. So why do we think that chatbot is a unique business differentiator, right? Why we have set out to build a BI chatbot in the first place is what we're going to look at now, right? So interacting via chat feels very natural for a lot of us because when we go to our office, or even when we're now working from home during this pandemic, we do have a lot of interactions with our colleagues, and connecting with each other and interacting with each other is a very natural way of doing things. And chatbot was primarily developed to cater to a specific set of functionalities within organizations. I mean, that's how chatbots are available now. And these chatbots are typically developed by clear rules or AI models, which can be tweaked by us. So scaling a chatbot to interact with voice, apart from natural input text, is pretty much possible today, especially with the current deep learning advancements. I think we just saw a demo from Chris where he did interact with Alexa, and the accuracies are simply amazing. And another important thing as part of a communication tool is the most common mode of communication for several businesses even today. So like I mentioned in the previous slide, is email marketing, right? Survey indicates that only 30% of the marketing email are opened approximately, and the click-through rates are constant at around 3.1% for several years. So this is a survey that which I saw on the Facebook page, and businesses. So keeping this in mind, businesses now need an alternative for email marketing, right? So within organization, however, the story is slightly different because organizations. So let's say if I have to get a request done from the ITT, I used to send email probably about 10-12 years ago, but we now have messaging apps within the organization, which is used as a primary mode of collaboration. And most importantly, there are other collaborative tools for projects to collaborate with, like Jira and Confluence and things like that. Besides all this, what we see here is the messaging apps within organization will definitely surpass email as collaborative tools. And most importantly, what we believe is chatbots will enable personalization so what we call it as super personalization or hyper personalization. So based on the history, we specifically can understand what a user can will. So let's say on every Monday morning, we know that a manager in the organization will come to us and will come to the chatbot and request for a very specific report. And the moment he opens a chat window, before he could even start typing, we would be able to present to him saying that, hey, hi, are you looking for this particular report? So that's the kind of features that we would be able to get built into the chatbots or the BA chatbots that we're going to talk about. So I think all of these points that I mentioned is specifically to strengthen the point that chatbots are a very unique business differentiator, and we'll see more about it now. So I think over to Megan for a quick poll. Megan.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So now we are going to launch another poll for AI and automation readiness. So we'll go ahead and start that. And I will collect some results and then share them with you. All right, I'll let the poll go for another 30 seconds and then I'll share the results with everybody. All right, ending the poll now, and we'll share these results. So it looks like we've got 60% that are looking to understand if AI or automation can be a part of their organization's processes now. 20% no, and then another 20% need a little more information. So hopefully a little bit more of our presentation will help you assess that. And we also have an expert that can connect you with that to help do that assessment. So feel free to reach out to me and I'll help schedule that for you if you need to. All right, thank you guys for your participation there.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for the poll and thank you all for participation. Okay, so let's move on to Amazon Lex. I think there was a very good introduction from Chris, and I'm going to build on top of what Chris just mentioned. So Amazon Lex is a service that is specifically built for developers to build conversational interfaces within existing applications, and the interaction, like as you saw before, can be either via text or voice, right? So that's a pretty important part, right? So Amazon Lex provides you with an interface where you can simply, you build the bot and then you take the API and just go ahead and connect it into your existing. It could be a mobile app, or it could be a website, and so on and so forth. It could be anywhere. I mean, I think we'll talk about other ways in which we can integrate a chatbot that is being built within organization tools. But yeah, it's a very, very super friendly tool that you can build the chatbot and go ahead and integrate into an existing application, right? So with Lex, Amazon delivers the natural language capabilities or abilities to the hands of developers without them having to develop the deep learning models that powers the natural language understanding and automated speech recognition technologies. So building some of these requires state-of-the-art infrastructure, and most importantly, massive amounts of data for us to build a natural language understanding and automated speech recognition system. So I mean, after you have the data, there's a huge amount of work that is involved, and there are massive volumes of efforts that are involved to do the labeling part, for you to specifically understand a sentence, and within a sentence, the different parts of the speech, and so on and so forth. And for instance, for an automated speech recognition system, it's a very complex task. I believe Chris also did mention that Amazon Lex, when you use the input based on voices, Amazon Lex can differentiate the background noise versus the noise versus the speech that is coming into the system. So those are simply really difficult problems. So with the power of the data that Amazon has, so these deep learning functionalities are built right in and given to the developers to go ahead and start building real world applications, because that's what eventually matters, and that makes our world a much better place to live, right? So natural language understanding specifically is for identifying the intent of the user that has been conveyed in text. So like I mentioned, in a specific text, natural language understanding will identify parts of the speech, if there is a place name, if there is a date that is involved, and so on and so forth. And then with automated speech to text, it helps us to convert the speech and gives it to us as the text to be used for the conversation with the bot. So with these capabilities, developers will simply have to create the dialogue flow where only mapping of the input to the specific response is required, and Lex can simply take care of the rest without any hassle. So what I mean by that is, we just have to build the conversation flow, right? So like Chris mentioned, how does everybody start interacting with the bot, or even if it's like an existing contact center, how does everybody start? So everybody starts with a hi, right? Everybody starts with a greeting. So then what's the next question that is asked probably by the call center agent or by the member that is contacting the contact center? So that probably could be, how can I help you with, will be the question from the call center agent. And then the employee starts giving out the problem description, and then the conversation moves from one step to the next step, and so on and so forth. So we'll discuss how this has been handled, but this is exactly the conversation flow that has to be developed and managed by the developers to set up Lex to work in its full-fledged capabilities. So there are several chatbot frameworks that are available today, but Lex stands out with the following benefits. I really want to say this out loud, because we've tried other chatbot frameworks, but there are some of the benefits that you have in Lex which you probably don't get it anywhere else, right? So let's look at them in detail. The first one is the interface for building the chatbot is so simple and easy. I believe we saw a preview of it with Chris. We will see this in action during the lab session, which is scheduled later in the day too. But the overall interface is so friendly and it's so easy for anybody who's like a developer or even somebody who's probably not written a lot of codes. They can go ahead and start create the building blocks that are required to build a chatbot very easily. Right. The next most important thing is deploying applications using Lex within AWS, or if you do not want to deploy it within AWS, you're just going to simply call the Lex Chatbot API. It's very easy, and it's all about pointing to the correct API, assigning permissions, and so on and so forth. And deploying is definitely easy. And once deployed, scaling is easy because AWS manages several things that are related to do auto scaling for us in several AWS applications in a much more friendly way, right? So you don't have to have racks of server with you. You don't have to rent out additional servers with you. It automatically scales, and you only have to pay for how much it has scaled and how much it is being used, right? And the next most important thing is a seamless integration with other AWS services. I think we saw Kendra, but there are a lot more. AWS services that are there, over 100 of them, and one of them that we have pretty much used a lot is integration of AWS, specifically in the BI bot, is RDS application, which we're going to AWS RDS database service, and which we're going to see in the lab session, in which we're going to walk you through. But it's also very easy for AWS services like S3 where you can retrieve files or store files in and out of the S3 buckets, right? So the last most important point is the cost effectiveness, because there's absolutely no upfront cost. And once it is deployed, you only pay for the number of text messages or the voice messages that is fired at the bot, right? So the costs are different, and all of the details are available in AWS website. I think this is the most important aspect of all, and these benefits, the scalability and the simple user interface to build, and integration and cost effectiveness are something that is probably not available in any of the chatbot frameworks that we have seen. So we'll move on to the basics of Amazon Lex. I believe some part of it is already covered, was already covered by Chris. But yeah, I just want to quickly reiterate, because these are concepts that we would have to definitely remember if you're going to build a bot, or even for you to be part of the session. So Lex Chatbots is all about content identification and managing. I think chatbot is all about utterances, intents, slots, and fulfillments, right? So intent is nothing but what the bot should understand. What is the intention of the question from the user? So intent is all about that, right? So these could be spoken intent, or with speech that is converted into text, or this could be intents directly conveyed in the text. And then comes utterances. So these are the specific. So like you see in the example that is on the right, which we have picked up from the AWS website, is I'd like to book a hotel is a question that is asked by the user, and the bot responds back and say, sure, which city. So utterance here is the specific question, or it could be a response that is given by the user too. So those are all utterances, and I think the intent here is the primary intent here is booking a hotel, right? So that's like the primary intent here. Now for the bot to fulfill the necessary intent, it goes ahead and asks all the necessary questions that are required to go ahead and successfully complete this intent. So that's how the different components are broken down, right? I think slots is another important thing. There could be several variations here. So one example that we see here is once in this book hotel bot, once the bot asks, sure, which city, we reply back and say New York City, or we see some other city. Identifying the city over there is exactly what slot management is required to do. And yeah, these are done at a very high accuracy. There are several customizations that we can do, which are available in Amazon Lex. And then for us to be able to, so for every input message in the chatbot, they can broadly be categorized as prompts or statements, right? So prompt-based messages typically triggers an action, but statements do not, right? And an intuitive way to take input from end user can be using response cards. It is a very easy method to create a direction without a distraction to do the conversation using the chat. But most of the times it's not required because Lex is very good in once the context is very clearly created by the developer. I think once the dialog flow, which I just mentioned earlier, is already created by the developer, it usually does not happen. But I think what can be used for response care are typically used when there is a, so let's say sure which city. Let's say if the answer is not appropriate, I think maybe that may not be the right question here. So let's say, do you want to? I would want to book. If the question from the user is I would want to book, and let's say the booking bot that is designed here books two things. One is flights or hotels. Then giving those two as options to narrow down the intent is where response cards are typically very well used. Right, and it, like I mentioned, it is a very easy method to create a direction of conversation during the chatbot, right? So there are two types of response cards that can be also categorized. Which are called as static response cards. and of course, dynamic response cards. So static, by the word, I think we understand that these are finite set of options that we want to present to the user, no matter the circumstance. But there are circumstantial things that we would want to provide to the user time and again to make the Lex experience much better, right? An example that I can probably bring up now is the time of the day, right? So let's say if it's a food ordering bot, then the options that we would want to display to the end user should be based on the menu specifically and based on the time of the day. If it's breakfast, the menus that should be displayed to the user using these response cards should be a breakfast menu. And then if it's lunch, it could be that. It could also be based on a number of other factors. So let's say if somebody is trying to use a bot to order a coffee based on the weather, it could prompt back and say the weather it's raining and do you prefer a hot coffee? So that's like an option that we can build, and that's where dynamic response card really come into picture, right? And the next thing that is very important that we should have is Lex has conversation logs that are all saved, which is very useful for future debugging and troubleshooting your bot, right? So building a bot and putting into production is not the end of the story. That's typically what we have seen because bot development, especially the BI bot development, is an iterative approach where we take baby steps to go and build a fantastic bot that eventually is. So your alpha version or your beta version of the bot can probably handle about 50 or 60 different intents, and then you go and tweak and verify if. So you go. I mean, this is like an audit, right? We can have these conversation logs to go ahead and see. What was the question that was asked? How was it responded? And so on and so forth. It's really useful. And to top it on with the existing bot that we have built, we could also include a sentiment analysis system for the user messages. Which will kind of notch up the functionality a little better. This a typical use case that I can think of where a sentiment analysis will be very useful is for us to personalize the experience for the end user. I think a quick example that I could think of is, let's say if it's a call center bot and we're trying to have the bot interact with the end user to understand the problem and so on and so forth. And let's say the user's tone is he's upset, and then I believe at that point of time, bringing in a human into interaction is much better. And at that point of time, what I would prefer to do is I would switch the conversation from being handled by the bot to an actual agent to bring in some human, and I believe the conversation will go in a much better direction. So yeah, that's a quick example as to how sentiment analysis component can also be included in bots. And these are all some of the concepts that we definitely would have to remember when we are building a bot using Amazon Lex, right? So the next thing is features of building a chatbot using Amazon Lex is what we're going to see now. I think some of this is already covered, but I would still like to cover some of the important things here. We all know how good Alexa is, and it only we all know that we all are seeing that it only gets better over time, right? So Lex promises a similar experience for natural language understanding and automatic speech recognition. So which is high quality, right? That's like the most important thing. Like I mentioned, with more data, deep learning models get better in both understanding the language as well as converting the text to speech. The speech to text. And then the most important thing is, the next important thing is a multi-turn conversation. This is very, very important. So multi-turn is useful to answer user questions more precisely by gathering additional elements required. So very similar to the taxi booking or the cab booking bot that we saw, the moment you start the bot, user starts saying that I would want to book a taxi. A multi-turn conversation typically helps you in gathering all the necessary requirements that are required to fulfill the actual intent. Like I mentioned, I mean, the intent here is to book a taxi or book a cab, right? So, it goes and gathers a required destination. It understands what's the type of the car that the user wants, and any other info that's required. So that's multi-turn conversations that are a feature built in Amazon Lex, and then confirmation of intent and error handling is something that is built inbuilt using Lex, right? So they are called as utility prompts. When the bot is unable to understand, it can go ahead and ask you that can you please say that again? So that's like a statement that we can use, or we could also use response cards, which we discussed earlier, right? That's where utility prompts come into picture. Chaining several intents are a very useful technique in building chatbots. Once a bot fulfills a user request, we can add associated intents as well. For instance, travel booking, in a travel booking portal, once the flight tickets have been booked, we can go ahead and chain the intent of hotel booking too. So that's I mean, the user will be pleased to see that, okay, so since I've already booked the hotel, it knows the destination, it knows my duration. I think you could use those information to go ahead and chain the hotel booking as well along with the flight booking. Integration with AWS Lambda is another important feature. So AWS Lambda, as we discussed, is a serverless architecture. We are going to see that later in the demo, where we use AWS Lambda to kind of connect to the databases. We in fact do a lot of things in AWS Lambda, which we'll walk you through. And then enterprise readiness, so that it is secure enough to be built into enterprise applications. So like Chris mentioned, and like we already saw, which we're also going to see some more examples, that we could build these Lex chatbots into any application that we would want. I mean, any of the popular messaging platforms are all super receptive for these chatbots and APIs as such. So we're going to look at that. Platform independent API enables to deploy bot in multiple platforms, regardless of the end user application. And versioning is something that is built in, which kind of helps the powerful, which is a feature called as powerful lifecycle management capabilities. Once, I mean, like we discussed, we would have to take baby steps in building the bot. And after every particular release of the bot, we would want to improve the capabilities of the bot by adding features. So we then would want to release a new version. So this could also be done at an intent level or at the entire bot level. So specific intents can be updated, or the entire bot could be updated. So that's where lifecycle management or versioning comes into picture. 8 kilohertz telephony audio support is so important for high fidelity with telephone speech interactions. So typically meant for call center application or help desk. And Amazon Lex is natively integrated with Amazon Connect, enabling developers to kind of build the bots, which is a voice-based conversational bots that can handle customer queries over the phone. So these are some of the really important features that I would want to walk through. So over to the next slide is where we are now getting to the BI bots. Right. So what is BI bot, business intelligence bot, right? I think let's understand why this is so important for all of us here today. So today, the ability for us to kind of gain access to the precise data that we would want, and at the precise moment that we would want, is a game changer. So imagine if you are if you're a salesperson, you are going to a customer to try to give a demo of a particular solution, and you would want to understand what is the error rate of the machine learning model that is supporting the solution. I mean, what if you could have that in the most recent information to be presented to your customer at that particular moment? That's a game changer. right? And what if you could bring in some examples to present to the user at that particular moment? That's a game changer again, right? So we have built a BI bot on top of Amazon Lex, which can give this capability for users, right? The two most important challenges that we are trying to solve here, which we have seen in the industry for business intelligence data gathering, is that first, there's usually a dedicated team in several organizations for pulling data from databases. I think this is a guy this is a team that probably sits behind a transaction monitoring system like a ticketing tool. These requests go to the team via tickets. They prioritize based on the severity, and then they then go ahead and write the query and get the data and then send it over to the actual team. This is the time-consuming activity, is what we believe, right? I mean, you see that. I mean, I think there are several other factors that also govern the amount of time that it takes, right? So that's the first challenge that we're trying to solve. The second challenge that we're trying to solve here is most of these data pull requests will be similar. Will be similar that is coming from different teams altogether, right? I mean, there are some teams who probably will build something called a stored procedures, which are specific query instructions which will be used again and again, but just changing a few parameters. But largely, a lot of them do duplicate the efforts to go ahead and give the request as a BI team, right? So BI chatbot that we are trying to talk about will specifically solve this challenge that we have mentioned above, right? So why? I think we'll look at that. We'll look at the why, but yeah, there are important aspects that we want to cover here. So the first thing is BI chatbot can be built alongside and can live alongside the existing support system that we have for BI data gathering. Since I think one of the most important reason is that the customer should not be able to distinguish whether it's a human that provided the output or it's a bot that kind of provided the output. So kind of passing the Turing test. Turing test is a test that is for every AI system, it should pass where it should not be, it should be indistinguishable from a human, right? So that's exactly how BI bot should be developed, right? And BI bot kind of solves the above challenge by converting the natural language question that is asked by users, because these requests that are put in the ticketing system will actually be a question like, can you pull me the sales data for the last 12 months for a specific region? So that's like a natural language question, right? All we have to identify, all we have to do is convert that natural language question to SQL statements, which in turn can be fired to obtain the necessary data on the database platform that is already there in the system, right? So yeah, that's essentially what we're trying to do. We're trying to convert natural language into SQL to go ahead and fetch and give the result out. Apart from receiving the input via text, voice should also be integrated. So like I think one of the prime thing that which I really liked in Chris' presentation is everybody everywhere would want to start interacting with bots like we are interacting with humans. So that's where voice is so important. And I believe you would have seen me including voice input in several slides. Yeah, that's the future. That's where everybody is heading towards. And based on the organization's messaging platform, this should be integrated right into the organization's messaging platform. So for instance, if it's Teams, Teams is where we could have a separate user called as a BI data provider. That could be an entire support desk which is handling the request, or it could be a specific bot that is being built to handle these requests. It should be indistinguishable. I mean, to start off with, we could actually start off by building a BI chatbot to handle requests that are really quick and frequent and easy, and give the complex and triage the complex one to actual BIT. But yeah, it should not be distinguishable. That's like the most important part. And yeah, all that is required is they open the Teams, or they open the Slack system. They fire the question. The output should be there within less than a minute. That's exactly what we believe will be a true BI chatbot. Now let's look at how can we build that. I mean, we have a very basic high-level architecture, which we think is like a beginning, which we think is a beginning. I believe let's look at that architecture, right? So the bot, which we will be doing later in the day, accepts both text and voices and input. But however, based on the experience with BI chatbots, we believe the output at least can be categorized to begin with into 3 different categories. There's actually a 4th type, but I'll come back to that later. But we can talk about 3 different broad categories. Number 1 is a single value where the output is a single calculated output, like a sum or a count of a particular category of a column, or it could be a sum of a particular column. So it could be as simple as what is the number of so let's say I'm a CPG company. What is the number of products that had a sales on a specific day, something like 30th of July 2020, right? It could be what are the categories in which there was a sale. So that's like a count, right? We typically have to identify if I had a count in a particular category or not, and it just has to give me a count, right? So that's a single value response answer. Or it could also be in such a way that let's say if I'm in a financial sector, how many invoices have I got to fulfill today? Like that's it just has to return a number. It could be 2, it could be 5, it could be 10, and so on and so forth. But these are single value outputs, right? The next type of output that we see here, I think you can kind of see the diagram here. The left top is like a welcome, and it is a single value response. And the next one on the right, the second quadrant is a table output, where table output are typically a collection of rows or columns of data. Let's say this could be like, can you can you show me a list of customers and their phone numbers whom I would have to connect with, whom I have a follow-up meeting with in the next 7 days? Now that's going to be a list. It's going to produce a list of all the customers along with their phone numbers in 2 separate columns. That's table as an output. And then the third part of output, the third type of output that we're generally going to see contains charts. These are actual charts that are usable. You can just download the chart. So we do build some fantastic charts using open source platforms. Like Plotly, if you have seen it in the past. I mean, you could just download the graph. You could go ahead and stick into your presentation and continue for your meeting, right? So that's how friendly and how usable your data should be, and that is exactly what I meant. Having the right data at the right time when you absolutely need it, right? So these are the 3 broad categories of output. Like I mentioned. The 4th type of output is specifically for handling exceptions or ambiguous questions, or something called as a complex data. When we have a complex data request, we probably will have to collect a lot of details, right? So it could be there could be a simple question like show me the number of categories of electronic equipments that I've sold in the last 3 months. So there could be like a number of questions that can be included to refine and provide a specific output. A couple of examples can be: do you want the search to be at a specific store, or do you want it to be across US? That's one example. The next can be: are you looking for specific type of devices like handheld, or do you also are you also wanting to include computers and desktop and so on and so forth? So like this is specifically to handle ambiguous or complex data requests, where we throw to the user a selection of options, and based on the user selection, we take it further and we go ahead and compile the SQL and generate the answer, right? So that's like a specific use case of a response card. We will also see how AWS Lambda can be clubbed for some question intents. I believe I believe we will talk about it. And AWS Lambda also can handle some of the permission gateways where it can restrict access to information. So it's, like I mentioned, it is about access for the necessary information and the right information at the right time. Information is very sensitive. We just have to always have a gate for us to send the information to the right person. That's exactly where Lambda can also help. So besides this, there could be reports that can be generated based on conversation logs to see the level of interaction with the bot. And of course, we can perform analysis in future, which will help us to tweak the bot, right? So for those questions that are deemed kind of difficult, we could use like an Amazon messaging service to trigger additional human support to replace interaction from the chatbot. Yeah, those are all options. So another important thing that you see here is several services that are coming into picture here, like AWS Lex Runtime API, AWS Cognito. IAM authentication is again for authentication, and we are triggering a Lambda. So we have a database which is typically an RDS instance, and so on and so forth. So that's like a very high level architecture and the different components that are involved in building a basic BI bot. We will talk further, and we will include we will probably include more set of things in the demo session that we have, or in the lab session that we have. So I think over to Megan for poll number 4.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. All right, so we are actually going to go ahead and just do 2 quick polls before we go ahead and enter our Q&A as well as our break. Thank you, Alex, for your feedback. I'm reading it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll, and this is about chatbot readiness. So we're really trying to get an idea of where you all are at in terms of if you're looking in the immediate future or in the timing for that. So I'll open that up for a few more minutes, or for about a minute and a half, and then we will gather everybody's results and share. All right, I'm going to let the poll go for about another 30 seconds, and then I will share the results with everybody. All right, so I am going to go ahead and close this poll in about 15 seconds, because we just got another 2 more votes. Responses. Thank you all so much for your participation in these. So this is actually a pretty interesting result. So we're looking for, 17% of you are looking to implement a chatbot within the next 3 to 6 months. And 83% are still in the discovery phase, which makes sense because that is about what we're seeing in the industry as well. So the next thing is I'm actually going to go ahead to a follow-up poll question. And this is about the challenges or impediments. And if you guys have an other, feel free to go ahead and add some things to the chat, or also message me via email if there's anything else that you want to share with us. So got this other poll. Jeremiah, thanks for your comment as well and your question. I'm going to go ahead and pass that along. Oh, wow. This is interesting results to see. All right, I'm gonna keep this open for another 30 to 45 seconds. Because everybody is still going. All right, I've got about 20 seconds left in the poll. All right, closing the poll. And let's share these results. So 50% are citing a resources challenge. 50% of you also cited technical challenge. This was a multiple one, so it's great to see that you guys all checked off different options, because we all know that there's definitely more than one challenge when this happens. So 75% budget constraints, 25% other, 50% technical challenges. So thank you guys so much. Now we're going to go ahead and move forward with the Q&A. So one of the questions that we received was, do Lex and Kendra integrate with Discord? So Fish, do you want to go ahead and take that, or Chris?
Okay, and I'm sorry, Megan, can you please repeat that? I was just trying to go through the
No
questions.
problem.
I'm so sorry for that. Yeah.
One of the questions we got was, do Lex and Kendra integrate with Discord?
Okay, that's something that we have not tried, but I very well do see that Discord is a very popular gaming platform. I mean, gaming chat platform, very similar to Slack. I believe the APIs are pretty much open, but I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that, but we can check and get back to you on that.
All right. Great. And then, so I think this was addressed in here, but we'll just follow up as necessary if need be. What is the quality like with BI chatbots?
Okay, that's an excellent question. The quality of the BI chatbot is specific. It will be really good if we. So, like we discussed, BI chatbot is something that that will be ideal for customers who already have an existing support system and and kind of ready to move to a BI chatbot environment. And yeah, I guess that's for customers who already have existing questions. And of course, all of these questions will have a corresponding SQL or a corresponding stored procedure or something like that. Yeah, I think on the development that we have done, we have had accuracies topping going north of 95% to identify the specific intent, right? What I mean by the intent is, I think in the taxi example that we saw was, can I go ahead and book a taxi? And the bot asked which city. Sorry, it's not a taxi. I'm sorry. It was an airline. Which city? New York City, right? So identifying New York City there is an intent. Is a slot identification, and the intent here was booking a taxi, right? Intent and slot identification is easily over 95%. Is over 95% in terms of accuracy. That's something that we have that we'd love to show to you if you want to walk us, if you want to have a look with us in terms of our accuracy in building models. Yeah, I guess that should answer. But yeah, largely it's something that we should take it on a case-by-case basis. And what we also do as part of the discovery phase is once you give us a list of questions, we kind of go through the questions and we'll tell you which we would be able to handle and which we'd not be able to handle, because setting up the expectation is most important. And I believe, yeah, we have kind of understood which really works well and which does not work. So in that regard, I guess I guess, yeah, we definitely can produce some amazing results. Any other questions that we have, Megan?
None, but if anybody has a question that they would like to add, feel free. Right now is the time.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. And then, so now what we'll do is, it's a great time for a break. So what we're going to do, since we ended a little bit early at 12:50, we are going to go ahead and do a 15-minute break before the lab begins. So we've also sent everybody their lab access information as well as Grubhub gift cards. So if you guys have any issues with that and with logging in and everything, let us know. You can feel free to respond in the chat or also email me at the email that I provided to you guys. And we're happy to help troubleshoot. But let's reconvene for the lab session at 1:05 Eastern Time, so in about 15 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. See you again.
Thank you. See you guys all in 15 minutes. Hey everyone, we are back and about to begin. Just a quick reminder, if anybody needs help and has not received their login details, I am adding my email right now. So please message me via email if you guys are having any access issues. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and have let Vish take the wheel and take over as we start building your BI chatbot. Thank you all so much.
Hi, thank you all. Thank you for joining us once again. So I'm going to stop the video and I'm going to start sharing my complete screen so that I walk you through the process of building a very simple BI chatbot. I think, yeah, this is very important for us, and I believe what we're trying to show to you is something very dear to us, and yeah, we will get started now. Just going to pause the video and going to start sharing my. Okay, I think I'm going to sign out. So if you click on the so if you click the link, this should take you right to this particular window. I believe you can see the screen. You can see the screen here, and I assume that everybody has or already at that particular screen. And if there are any concerns, we also have some support for you who can help you. I'm just going to go ahead and enter my password. Just give me a minute. Please give me 1 minute while I log in. Okay, I am going to share my screen again. There's a small glitch, sorry for that. Great. So once you sign in successfully, please ensure that you see the region that is selected as North Virginia for all of you, because that's where we have set up the demo for you. And Yeah, I think that's the first. If you have had challenge to get to this page, so please do connect us on the chat. Otherwise, I think the next step is to verify the region, and once the region is good, I think we will get started. Another important thing that I also want to quickly quote at this particular time is that there is a PDF that is attached for you in the email that is sent where you receive the credentials. That's like a step-by-step user guide that we have prepared for you, which is what I'm also going to use to kind of walk through the entire session. I think that's something that you can also keep it for reference and use it in your own AWS account in future, or I mean, I think you can we're going to definitely use during this lab session. So once you're here in the AWS Management Console, request you to please search for Lex here and click on Lex. For some of you, if you've recently visited that service, that will be right below. Else, it's something that you would have to select. So let's look at the agenda. I think now you're at you should see a screen, and these are all some of the bots that we have created, and that's in my inventory. But I'm going to go ahead and create a new bot now. So what we're going to learn in this session, that's part of the agenda of the handout that is also given to you, is this, right? So we're going to learn how to build a chatbot which can answer business questions by fetching the appropriate response from the database. We will learn how to work with intents, utterances, slots, and responses. And we'll also see how Lambda function is going to help us to take a database, talk to a database by converting the natural language converting a natural language question into an SQL, and Lambda going and searching for the information and getting us a response back. So that's exactly what we're going to see. And how we're going to do is exactly what I also mentioned before. So please do have the slide-by-slide guide that we've already sent along for you, which is very important for us to build a bot. And we will go together. Please don't hurry up. We'll go one step at a time, and we will walk you through as to how this should be done. So the first thing is, I think I just want to bring in my entire screen and show you the table that we have prepared for this particular session. That's a very simple table that we have. So I'm going to share my screen to show you the table. So this here is a table that we have. It's just a table with about 10 rows. Yeah, you don't find that in industry, but yeah, that's just like a table with 10 rows with very basic information that we have. Typically, this is like an inventory table that we have, which has several different gadgets. What is the total number of these gadgets that are available, and what is the number of sales on a month for just 3 months, which is March, April, and May, and what's now remaining in the inventory. This is precisely what we have as a table for you, which we're going to use to build the bot, right? So I'll quickly stop sharing. We can come back to this. We can come back to this whenever it's necessary. But yeah, this is the table that we're going to use. So over now to the section of building the chatbot. So I think in this particular space, we just need to click on create. And once we click on create, we have to select a custom bot. So the other bots that you see here, which is booking a trip, order flower, schedule an appointment, is something that Chris also mentioned, that these are all templatized bots that's already available and created by AWS. And these are all samples. I mean, they're lovely to check. So we encourage you to go ahead and check in future. But yeah, for now, let's go with the custom bot creation. So we will name this bot in a specific terminology. So that's going to be inventory, followed by your first name and last name. For instance, I'm going to name it as inventory underscore Vishwanath Ravandan. I'll leave the language selected as English US, and I'm going to select the output voices Yeah, I think you heard the output pod giving out a sample. And I'm going to set my session timeout duration for 10 minutes. And sentiment analysis is something that I will not want to include at this point of time. The IAM role should already be selected for you as AWS service roles for Lexbots. And so this is not a bot that we're going to build for children. So it's going to be a no. And then let's go ahead and click on create. Just want to repeat the individual steps here. The bot name should be inventory underscore followed by your first name and last name. And the language selection is by default English US. Output voice is something that you can choose whatever you want. There are several options that are available. Session timeout request you to please set it as 10 minutes. And the sentiment analysis is something that we're not including for now. And this is not a bot that we're building for kids, so it's no. I think I'll click on create now. Once I click on create, I now see a new screen. So this particular screen is very similar to is where we go ahead and go ahead and build the nuts and bolts that are required for our bot to work, right? So so we have everything created for you for us to have this lab session do a little faster, and for you to be able to start your first baby step in building a BI chatbot. So so please follow along. And the first thing that is required for us to create when building a bot is to categorize and identify the different intents. So we're going to now going to add an intent by clicking on the plus sign. So since it's all since we've already created a template of all the necessary intents for you, you just have to click on search existing intents, and in the search existing intents. You would already see a list of custom intents that is already created. So to begin with, we'll start off with the greeting intent. So we select the greeting intent and click on add here, and the greeting intent is already there, right? So let's not edit anything because we've kind of restricted for you to be able to make further changes. But please take this as a reference and go ahead and build your own bot. And these are very easy for you to build your this is exactly the convenience that we just mentioned to you that you get in Amazon Lex for you to build your bots, which is very easy. So you can go ahead and add in future. For now, do not add. You can go ahead and include any different any number of utterances that you would want for this particular greeting intent. So I mean, technically what you're trying to say here, if the user says hi or hello, you're saying that the bot should understand that this is a greeting, and the corresponding response is something that we have. It's pretty long here. Hello, hope you're having a great day. I can help you with inventory. I think it's inventory data. Yeah. So I think that's like a response. We will go ahead and see what is the response. So that's the bot that we have built. So anytime you go ahead and add an intent, please always ensure to click on saving the intent. And once you have saved the intent, you can go ahead and click on publish. I'm sorry, you can go ahead and click on build. Publishing is after you complete all your intents. Okay, I think somebody has entered a sample utterance. So I'm just going to go ahead and add or remove the. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and create a bot again because that happens when we have added a custom intent. So since we want to limit it, and a lot of us are working on the same environment, is why that error comes up. So I'm just going to create another. I'm going to click on create, and request you to please do the same thing, because if you've got the error, you would have to do the same thing. So please do not add anything to the existing intent. So I'm going to select greeting, click on add, and I'm just going to click on save intent, and I'm going to click on build. Okay, so I think my bot is getting built. So, so Lex provides you with this interface for you to test as you build with every single intent. So as you see here in my screen, it's still building, and the build is successful. And I have an option here to go ahead and test how my intent is working. So I just go ahead and click hi. I can also go ahead and give a slight variation to it. It understands that I'm trying to still say it's a greeting. I can say a hello. It understands that I'm trying to say the same intent. So for all the intents, which is a greeting intent, the response that we have already created in this bot is, hello, hope you're having a great day. I can help you with inventory related information. You can ask me questions related to number of sales for a particular gadget or about monthly sales of gadgets, etc. I guess, yeah, that's quite a long explanation that we have, because that's something that we would want to show to you as the capabilities of the bot. So yeah, so we finished the first intent. Let's go ahead and add another intent, which is a thank you note, which is very important. So I go ahead and search for thank you. I click on add, and so I go ahead and save intent, and I go ahead and build. Okay. It's just building now the second intent. So once it completes the build, we will just go ahead and test the thank you intent too. So with the thank you intent, the bot now can understand two intents successfully. So I just say a thanks assuming that my entire conversation is complete, and I'm done with interacting with the bot. So now let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to BI bot specific intent. So let's go ahead and search the intent called as total to be sold. So all the sentence, like I mentioned, is already predefined and created for you for us to run through this demo really fast. Because this all this, I mean, creating from scratch is going to take some time, and I'm going to go and build this intent again. But yeah, so let's understand what's happening here. So this particular question, total to be sold, is specifically you can ask total number of all gadgets to be sold. So this is, you're not asking for a specific month, but this is just all the gadgets that are sold ever, right? Total number of all gadgets to be sold. Right, so you get 477 items that are yet to be sold out of a total of 1,810. So that's your basic BI bot question and answer. So how do you verify this is correct? I mean, a simple math. You go back here, and this adds up to 1,810, and the remaining is what we specifically requested, the number of gadgets that are yet to be sold. So that adds up to 477. So you can go ahead and test it if you want. But let's move on to the next intent, where we are going to now look at category-wise. So that's total categories. So I go ahead and select the intent, click on add. And as always, as a good practice, click on save intent. And I go ahead and build the intent now. Okay, so this question is specifically, or this particular intent is focused on understanding how many number of gadgets are there in the inventory. So I think it's still building. It doesn't let you to test your bot till the build is complete. So I'm going to ask how many categories of gadgets are there in the inventory. Okay, I have 10 categories. How do I verify that? My table here has 10 different gadget categories, and that's exactly is the answer, right? So let's notch up the complexity a little bit now, right? So we're going to go to search intent, and the next intent that we are going to look at is gadgets that are sold, right? Yeah, so here's the first set of complexity that we would want to introduce you to. So now this question is interesting. So unlike the previous question, this has identification of slots, right? So how many gadgets were sold in a month? So the different options that you have for gadgets are every single one of them here. So for now, we've not made we have ensured that it should be case sensitive. So please use the exact same case and spelling, but we'd be able to build a bot that can understand a smartphone with a spelling mistake, and it can come back and throw back to you asking, "Did you mean smartphone?" And we can also go ahead and build a bot to understand slight variations as well. So, for instance, if you instead of saying March 2020, you could say 03/2020. So that it understands that it's March 2020, right? So we could build this bot but for now, for the demo purpose, we have built it simple. So there are two options that we have here, which are variations that we can ask. So let's go ahead and ask. Yeah, I'm going to first build this intent. So these are slots. So this is the first set of complexity where we are now having a question, which also involves a slot understanding. So gadget is a predefined set of gadgets that we have included. And a month is something Amazon Lex can very well understand because a month is standard and standard everywhere, right? So we're going to go ahead and build this particular version now. So when we looked at the demo, when we looked at the presentation, we spoke about versioning and deploying, doing rapid prototyping as and when you include new features, right? So now this is something that you can do very well in Amazon Lex. So like I mentioned, I just want to release my bot at this stage where it can only include gadgets to be sold. So I can go ahead and build it, and I can go ahead and publish and have the API already being handled by my application. So for now, it can only handle these capabilities. So think of it as me building the bot in an iterative fashion. So now, so let's go ahead and ask a question. How many? So the list of choices in the guide that we have provided for you, which is a PDF file, I'm just going to use how many TV sold in, let's say the three options that we have for the month is also March, April, and May. So I'm going to use the month of May. So it says 33 TV units were sold in May. So let's go ahead and verify. So TV here in the month of May is 33. So that's fantastic. So there you have your BI bot, I mean, giving you the answer that you want when you want it. So we're going to try one more variation here. How many? You could try as many variations you want, because there are doing a permutation and combination. You can ask 30 different variations if I'm correct. So I'm just now going to ask how many speakers were sold in April. So let's say 31 speakers in April. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's 31. Perfect. So that's exactly how it works. So I guess so that's one level of complexity. So let's go ahead and increase the complexity slightly a little more. Now, I think what we would also want to introduce, specifically when you are handling database questions, is for you to go ahead and give a reference like using operators, right? So in this case, the most common operator that we all use is greater than and less than. So we'll include the next intent, which can handle that, right? So I'm just going to select the intent which called as gadget inventory number, and I'm going to add that. And so here you see the intent here. The sample utterance indicates list of gadgets which have operator than a specific number units in the inventory. So operator here are two options that we have built so far, but you could build as many as you want. But I believe the most common ones are greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or equal to, or not equal to, and so on and so forth. I believe these are the common operators that we have. And for now, we have only included greater and less assets. So I'm going to save the intent, and I'm going to build it. So another important thing that I probably missed in the previous intent as well is that if you see the fulfillment, these are not standard responses, right? We are trying to handle these responses now using AWS Lambda function. I'm going to show you what we have also coded in the AWS Lambda function. So since this is a very basic BI bot, yeah, we will go ahead and have a look at as to how we have how we have created the system to identify convert the natural language to SQL. But yeah, there are a huge amount of complexities that we can build for us to do this task, because BI bot is not something that's very common. It's not that easy as well. So we've already included this particular intent. Now I'm going to ask a question which is specific to this. List the gadgets which have I think I'm going to use less than. So let's say I think I'm going to take less than 20 units in the inventory. So why would somebody want to do that? They just want to understand the stock level, right? So yeah, so it says that tablets and watches are two components that are less than 20 units. So as you see here, tablets is 14 and watches is 19. So that's precisely what it replied. So you can go ahead and try another option to list the gadgets which have, this time I'm going to use greater than, let's use 100 units. So I would want to probably do this to introduce an offer. So I make my customers to go ahead and buy this, and I can empty my inventory. So yeah, I think laptops for some reason appears to have sold less, and I believe I would want to understand this info whenever I want. I mean, it could be time of the day, it could be a specific month, and so on and so forth. So this is exactly the power of having the right information for you when you need it. So let's move on to go ahead and include another intent where we would want to slightly increase the complexity. So this is going to be we would want to understand the sales of gadgets at a particular month. So I'm going to add this intent called as gadgets month number. So I have selected that. As always, I click on save, and you see that my sample utterance is list of gadgets which are sold greater than or less than is what I can include than a specific number in a specific month. So that's my question here. So as you can see, just like the previous ones, this is not a standard response, and we cannot have a standard response. And this is getting fulfilled by AWS Lambda function, the serverless system. And I'm going to go ahead and build this, and we can start asking questions related to this right away. Okay, so let's ask. Yeah, it's still building. So what do you think? I think it's really easy to build bots as a developer. I mean, I think the screen that we have and the functionalities that we have for us to build a bot is so user friendly, and we can verify if a bot works fine or not. I mean, that's like the most important thing before we put into production, right? So I'm going to ask now list of gadgets which sold greater than. Let me go back to the table. I just want to see. Let's check probably 50. Greater than 50 units in. Let's take the example of the month. I just want multiple. Yeah, April. in April. Yeah. So if you remember when I was doing the presentation, I did inform that there are broadly 3 different types of output that we can. I mean that has come to us at least as request to be as output from a BI chatbot. So the 3 different output types was the types are number 1. It's a single value response where we get single value as a response. The second is table as a response. So this here kind of mimics that table as a response. I mean, I can't, we would not be able to show you an exact table here, but however, you will see multiple outputs here. So if it was a front end, I would love to bring a table which has earphones, the number of units sold for that particular month, tablets, the number of units sold for that particular month, and watches, the number of units sold that particular month. So let's verify if it's correct. So this was for 50 units or greater in the month of April. So April, we see earphones, we see tablets, and we see watches, precisely as it is required. So so that's how it works. So let's try another option, which is list of gadgets which sold. I think we're going to do less now, less than. Let's take less than 30, less than 30 units in April. I think, yeah, we'll target April. And yeah, I think Alexa devices is one option. I think the database is not so good. Yeah, it is. Alexa is one option and GoPros is another one. So you see here in the month of April, we see there were 22 Alexa devices and 24 GoPro devices that were sold. So yeah, I think that's exactly what we wanted to build. And I believe you now have a very basic BI bot that you have built. So that's a quick way as to how do we do it. So the next is I would want to go back and show you another interesting piece. So I'm going to go back to my AWS service list, and I'm going to go to the Lambda just to show you as to how it works. So like I mentioned to you, this is a very basic Lambda function that we have built. So we've used Python in this case. Data scientists usually are friendly folks for Python because Python provides the necessary things that is required for data scientists. So we have this Python file called as dbinfo.py, and so we have an ML SQL connector because our database is a MySQL database, and the connector that you see here is the MySQL connector that is required for it. And this also has a Lambda handler. Now this is where the crux of it is happening. So Lambda handler is the function that we have built to service the bot here. So I think so. This is a very simple bot, right? So we know what is the intent name, and for that particular intent, we know what are the different slots that we're going to get, right? So we'll talk about a pretty difficult one. So I think the last one that we did is gadget month number, right? So for the gadget month number, we were specifically looking at how many number of gadgets that were sold greater than or less than a particular number in a specific month. So I think what we've built now, since it's a basic bot, is a list of if-else statement. But ideally, when you're trying to build a BI bot, if-else will run out, and you would need a system which is which can identify these intents at 100% accuracy, and then use that intent to create the corresponding SQL question source. So here, if you see, select gadget from Immersion Lex 2020 is a database name. Dot table is in inventory specifically here. This particular table where month is something that we obtain from the from Lex. Lex passes Lex is the natural language understanding. It understands that the month that we queried in this example is the month of April, May, or March. And then if it's a greater than operator, then it uses the greater than symbol. If it's a less than operator, then we use a less than symbol. So what we're trying to create here is a nested if else statement. But like I mentioned to you, when your queries get complex, your if else will run out. But yeah, we have much better ways in which we can build we can build this SQL queries. And then number is the precise number that we have provided. So we provided 20 and 30. And so that's it. That's how the SQL statement is generated. And the SQL statement, once it's created, it goes ahead and fires. The query is fired using Lambda. And I think that just gets a response, and the response is again returned back to your demo on the left-hand side that we saw before. So this is the entire app here could be integrated, and you can go ahead and chain number of questions and so on and so forth, and you can make it as complex as you want for you to have your BI bot. So yeah, but however, what we try to build here is a simple one, but that's a place that's a good enough place for us to start off with. So I think I'm going to switch to the slide now. I think yeah. Before I go to before I proceed further for best practices, I believe any questions we can take questions if there's any.
Yes, perfect timing. So if anybody has a question, you can either feel free to add it to the Q&A, or if you'd like to raise your hand to ask a more specific question, I can actually enable you to talk. Just raise your hand, and then I will let you ask the question. Not seeing any hands go up. I am seeing a question. Is this where I would add new terms for greater, more than, or is that done the operator attribute itself?
That kind of depends. That's actually a good question. You have an option to add as many operators that you would want, but yeah, I think it really depends on the type of questions that you're trying to ask. But yeah, there's a lot of flexibility that you have. The system is pretty robust for it to understand and provide you an absolutely accurate answer. So I think it mostly will work. You can add as many as you want.
All right, that was the only question that we saw pop up. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. I think we'll move on to the next section of the presentation.
Actually, pause 1 second. I actually got another question. Is there is there a best practice in terms of where to adjust operator terms?
Okay, that's something that we probably will have to create a custom operator terms. Like I mentioned to you, I believe it should work. You should not have a challenge as long as your operators are mutually exclusive. You should not have a problem. I think anything that is greater than or higher than and so on and so forth. So that's where the Lex is really good, right? I mean, Lex understands sometimes if you give enough number of variations, it understands. Even if you give a new variation of something like higher than, or I mean, if I say, I mean, it cannot understand north of 100, but it can understand more than, right? It can understand that very well, and it can take care of it pretty much well. I guess that should answer.
Yeah, I think so. And then we've also got another question.
Yeah.
Yep, just following up. So if you can see that, but should I do it in Lambda code or in the Lex operators? I was surprised that greater than and more weren't automatically equated.
I think you can chain these operators together, because if you saw the Lambda code that we showed to you, it is nothing but a simple if else. You can just include those operators there, uh, but you could also have some kind of a synonym generator, right? Let's say, what if there is an operator that you have not thought of and you have not included that in the Lambda? Uh, and at that point of time, you would probably have to have a separate def or a separate module in your Python code, which kind of give you a synonym generator for something like more than, right? For it to understand that more than is equal to greater than. There are several packages that are available in Python which can give you those synonym generators. I believe. Yeah, I believe it can work. I see that you've also mentioned that I was surprised that greater than and more weren't automatically equated. Uh, like I mentioned to you, machine learning, I think it would. I'm sorry, I've not tried that, but we could try that. But like I mentioned to you, machine learning will become better and better as you include more and more variations to questions. And uh, I think, yeah, it just simply gets better as we include more variations. So more data is better. Okay, and I see another question. But it should do it in Lambda code or I think I've already answered this.
Yeah, I think so. And then Edwin is our other panelist, is helping us manage the Q&As, and we're
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's great. Awesome. Thank you. Kevin, let us know if there's anything else we can follow up on. And if that's if we've covered everything, or if you have any other questions. Great. All righty.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and move along. Great.
Super. So let's move on. I think so. We've seen a basic BI chatbot being built. So let's move on to understand some of the best practices that are involved in building these chatbots. I believe you can all see my screen here. So the BI chatbot is like I mentioned to you, is ideally for companies who already have an existing support system in place to handle BI-based questions. And using a ticketing tool, they ideally have this being answered for now. So I think that's the perfect company who can start building a BI chatbot right now, because the amount of savings that you would be doing in terms of effort and the utilization of resources is significant. And I believe, at least in the use cases that we have seen, several of these questions are repetitive, just with a variation of the slot. For instance, somebody could ask this question for the first week of July, and they could come back and ask the same question for the second week of July, right? So that's a duplication of effort, and all of these, I believe, is not a highly cognitive task for a human to be involved, because human should be typically involved in those. I think so. That's what my second point talks about as well. So BI chatbot should actually coexist with the existing support system, and the focus of BI chatbot to begin with. Let me reiterate that to begin with should be to automate these frequent queries or standard report requests that we get in our organizations frequently. And then slowly we can increase the complexity as we go, because yeah, we just saw, right? We include an intent, we deploy it into production. We include another intent, we deploy it into production, or we kind of tweak an intent, we deploy it into production. So that's the way chatbots are supposed to be built iteratively, and we can increase the complexity as we go up, right? So the next is things to begin. Like we have like a basic set of a list that is required for you to fulfill before you could begin your BI chatbot journey. These are pretty simple, and we as consultants would be able to discuss with you and solve these and verify this if this checklist is there, or we also could get this checklist ready for you for your company. But here's some most important or essentials that are required. the most important thing is define the specific business problem the bot should solve, right? Do you want the bot, do you want the BI chatbot to be answering, to work on your HR department, or to work on or on a specific department per se? I mean, that should be very clearly defined on day one, because I think if you start your journey with building a bot for a HR department, then your questions and your intents and things that you build should be specific to that. You can include the rest later, but you need to begin somewhere, and you need to begin at the right place. And that right place is something where you have or frequent queries or standard report requests that comes in repeatedly, right? So that's the first thing that you should answer, the specific business problem that you're going to solve. And of course, historical questions and the responses is a requirement, but we could help you to identify this question set, because identifying the unique set of questions is a very important requirement for you to begin your BI bot development journey, right? So the corresponding SQL query is something that is associated to it. So like I mentioned, the question and the response. So by response, I meant here, do you want, for this particular question, do you want a single value response? Do you want a table, or do you want a chart, or do you want a hyperlink? I mean, or are you looking for something else? I mean, those should be clearly defined. And how do you go and fetch those individual question and the corresponding response? You would need a SQL query. And another important thing that we see companies confusing themselves is if you begin to set out to go and build a BI chatbot, try to confine yourself within that particular space. You can't, a bad practice is you can't build a chatbot for you to handle your BI requests and go ahead and ask questions that are non-BI related to it. Yes, we can build it. We can build a classifier to identify whether this is a BI-based question or a not BI-based question, but your purpose kind of gets defeated on the way. So that's an advice that we would want to provide, and we've seen some clients making a mistake there. Gathering the infrastructure and the security requirements, keeping the deployment in mind is something that is required. Do you want to? I think, yeah, the next item is also related to it. Do you want the BI chatbot to interface in your existing website? Like if there's a specific portal, do you want it to integrate along with it, or do you want to include it in a messenger system? Do you want to integrate it with a mobile app, and so on and so forth? Are the basic questions that are supposed to be, you should have them ready before even you could proceed further. So I think the last slide that we have is something that we have seen very important, and I think we'd want to go ahead with this and explain to you. Providing real-time BI data for sales team, or any team for that matter, on the go is the primary use case of a BI-based chatbot. I think, like I mentioned, the statement again is very simple. Having the data at the right time, providing the right data to the right person is like a really powerful thing that is required in today's world, because data speaks, right? I think any industry use case that is trying to do this is a fantastic use case to go ahead and build a BI chatbot, right? It can also, BI chatbots can also act as interfaces for end customers, for data companies. So your company could be a data aggregator, let's say something like a real estate data aggregator, or you could just be a data aggregator for anything for that matter. I mean, then your including a BI chatbot will eventually be the interaction point for your customers, and yeah, that's like a really good place where you can build a BI chatbot. So I think building a BI chatbot, the next 3 point talks about benefits. Is it reduces the time from data gathering to decision making, because that's exactly what members of the organization that are required to do. because typically, if you don't have a BA chatbot, data, if there's a new data that comes into the system, I mean, of course, yeah, this is also required when you have a BA chatbot, including it as a new column and waiting. I mean, having a support system, where you wait for queries and people don't even kind of think about it, right? Of the new kind of column that you have added is it kind of defeats the purpose of adding a new data. But if you have a BA chatbot, let's assume that if there's a user who's asking, provide me the sales number for the third week of July, and you're almost in the end of fourth week of July, and you already have the sales number for the fourth week of July. You can go back as a bot and ask to the user. So we all saying that the fourth week of July sales data is almost ready. Do you want to have a look at it? That's like providing instantaneous feedback to the user and provoking him to utilize the data that you have. So the time that it takes for you to consume your data significantly increases when you have a BI chatbot. This particular point that I just mentioned is the personalization aspect that you can bring to your BA chatbot. And literally, when you have a BA chatbot and you expose the BA chatbot to several parts of the organization, your organization at a very high level become very highly data literate. I mean, you increase the data literacy of your organizations in an exponential proposition. That's like very important for several organizations, and you also drive the analytics adoption within your organization. So organization then becomes number driven, and eventually all of these activities significantly increases the value of the data that you already have. So yeah, I think that's the industry use cases and the benefits that I just wanted to provide to you. I'm happy to take Q&As, or we have a quick demo that we wanted to show to you. I think, yeah, I'll just wait for a quick minute for a Q&A, else I'll move to the Q&A demo bot.
Yep, I think as long as the last one was addressed, listed gadgets that have more than 20 units inventory is great, and we are good to go.
Okay, great. I think I'm now going to quickly stop sharing, and I'm going to switch to the other window to share, where we have the demo available.
Welcome to the Lex demo video. Allow me to show you the capabilities of our chatbot named Casper. Casper is not the type of chatbot you usually come across often. Chatbots in the current market are used majorly for answering frequently answered questions, or navigating through their services, etc. Along with answering FAQs and performing other relatively simpler tasks, Casper is designed to help the users to get specific reports from the databases. It can retrieve information based on conditions given by the user. Okay. It's best that I stop explaining and now show Casper's capabilities for real. Let's start with a simple hi, and go on to ask real business related questions. Let's go on and type in a question. Here we have a table as the output. You can click on the thumbnail for preview. And it can be downloaded as a CSV document. Now, let us have a look at how to ask question in the form of speech. And get a response back in the speech format.
How much amount do the clients owe us in total?
$195,900.
Let us go ahead and ask more questions. Here, we have a chart as the output. And it can be downloaded as a zip document. Inside zip document, you can find two files. One is the chart you saw in the preview. And the other one is the corresponding table in CSV format, where the chart was derived from. Let's look at a case where question was found a little ambiguous. Since user did not specify a particular amount, chatbot prompted back with options. So we can go ahead and click on whichever option we desire. Let's do one last question and see how Casper retrieves a single value for a question asked. We have come to an end of this demo video. And we have now seen the variety of scenarios where a chatbot could take care of. If you have questions related to our chatbot Casper, kindly reach out to us. We'll be happy to give you a detailed walkthrough. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for all of your time, and I hope it was useful.
Yeah, great.
Over to you, Megan.
Thank you so much. So we just want to thank everybody so much for taking the time out of your day. Tomorrow you will receive another email from us with your credits code, along with our link to our survey that if you don't get it to today, that's not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and add our link to the survey here in the chat. It'll only take about 2 minutes, so if you guys feel like getting that out of the way today, feel free. Let us know how we did. Add some comments. We've got some really good questions for you, and we really look forward to your responses. I've just sent that to everybody. And then also reach out to me via email if you guys had any technical difficulties and weren't able to convey that within the Zoom webinar. And then any other questions that you guys have, feel free to reach out to us, and we will have one of our team members respond very quickly. Thank you all so much, and we really appreciate your time. We hope you have a great rest of your week and a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much.
Right.